If reelected, Donald Trump has said he's willing to build migrant detention camps and deploy the U.S. military to deport the more than 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country. It would be the largest deportation operation in American history. Do you support that plan?
11 million. That's an outdated. That was the number 10 years ago.
Marco Rubio. He sat down with Kristen Welker at Meet the Press. There's quite a bit to look at here. We're actually going to show you the tail end of the interview first, because that's where things really got heated with Kristen Welker. But let me tell you, before we even clip into this, Donald Trump is looking for a couple of things in a running mate. He's looking for loyalty. He's looking for somebody who's right on the issues. He's looking for somebody who can articulate the policy and stand behind the policy properly and effectively. And he's looking for someone who will go to war with the media, knowing them to be the enemy that they are. You tell me if you think Marco Rubio fits the bill.
If reelected, Donald Trump has said he's willing to build migrant detention camps and deploy the U.S. military to deport the more than 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country. It would be the largest deportation operation in American history. Do you support that plan?
11 million. That's an outdated. That was the number 10 years ago. We're talking upwards of 20, 25, maybe 30 million. Well, There's been almost 10 million people that have entered this country in the last 3 years.
The question, would you support it?
The number varies big time. I mean, it's another 9 to 10 million people just in the last 3 years. The answer to your question is yes. We cannot absorb 25, 30 million people who entered this country illegally. They're here illegally. What country on earth would tolerate that? We don't even know who most of these people are. They talk about vetting them with what? They're coming from nations that don't even have document systems in many cases. Yes, we are going to have to do something. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do something dramatic to remove people from this country that are here illegally, especially people we know nothing about. But 10 million, 11 million, that was the number 15 years ago. Today, it's upwards of probably 25 to 30 million, maybe more.
Senator, here's what you said about Donald Trump's mass deportations proposals in 2016. Take a look.
I don't think it's reasonable to say you're going to round up and deport 11 million people. I don't think it's a plan that works. I don't think that's a realistic policy.
So why have you changed your mind now?
Because the issue has completely changed. When I said that, and back in 2013, when I was involved in immigration reform, we had 11, 12 million people that had been here for longer than a decade. Now we've had almost that number in the last 3 years alone from all over the world, including people that I believe are terrorists, people that I believe are going to conduct terrorist attacks in this country if given the opportunity, certainly people that were criminals in their home country. This is a completely different, this is not immigration. You asked me about immigration. This is mass migration. Mass migration. This is an invasion of the country. And it needs to be dealt with dramatically. And by the way, I'm a big poll follower, but polls show most Americans agree with us on this.
And of course, that was an issue under former President Trump as well. There was just a bipartisan proposal that was put on the table that would put more funding into border enforcement as well as limiting asylum. Republicans walked away from that. But let me move on to my next question.
No, we can't move on because that's not what that bill did. That bill also created asylum officers who right on the border will be able to give people asylum, and you give someone asylum right on the border without any appeal, no judge, nothing, just an asylum officer, they are on a path to citizenship. That's why I oppose that bill.
Your fellow Republican said it was the best deal that they had seen in a long, long time. But Senator,
which fellow Republican?
Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Lindsey Graham.
Okay, well then I disagree with Lindsey if that's what he said. I'm not in favor of asylum officers at the border that can issue asylum rulings right at the border.
And Senator James Lankford, of course, negotiated. But let me look forward. Will you accept the election results?
All right. So let me pause there because then she moves into accepting the election results. But you saw what happened there. That entire segment about immigration was set up as a gotcha moment. You know, the question was, do you support Donald Trump's plan to deport 11 million illegal immigrants? Now, Rubio absolutely knocked this out of the park because first, he wouldn't accept the premise of the number she was throwing out. 11 million, it's not 11 million. We're up to 20, 30 million at this point. Are you kidding me? That's an old number. But all she cared about was getting to the answer to the question as to whether he supports deportation. Because did you notice how they already had the clip package ready? Oh, well, that's not what you said before. Here's what you said before. That was a setup. The whole purpose of that was a gotcha, not to illuminate, not to get information. This is a debate. She's setting up a pre-rigged debate. And of course, they have the power of having a video package. You know, Marco Rubio can't run a video package of Kristen Welker pushing the Russian collusion hoax, right? He's a guest on the show. That would be great, though. Hey, oh, you've got a video package? You know what? I've got a video package. Do you deny that you were pushing the Russian collusion hoax? Have you ever apologized for this? Have you ever corrected the record? No, you actually got promoted, didn't you? You got to be the host of Meet the Press, Kristen, and look at all these lies you told about Russian collusion. See, this is how Republicans especially are always set up on these shows, to be the fall guys and really just to be a prop so that they can do a gotcha moment like this. And he was having none of it. He went right at it, didn't accept the premise in the first place, and then said, are you kidding me? Everything has changed after what Biden's done here. You can't compare what we said 8 years ago about immigration based on what we're dealing with right now. What is wrong with you? And then did you also notice she tries to like get out of the immigration conversation by throwing a jab and then moving on? Well, you had a plan. The Republicans had a plan that would have solved the problem, best plan in years, except because of Donald Trump, it got rejected. But I want to move on to another question. Wait, you can't. What are you doing saying that? She's trying to win a debate instead of actually engage in an interview to better inform her viewers and the American public. She's trying to score a point with a talking point about that immigration bill that wasn't an immigration bill, the border security bill that wasn't a border security bill. It was an amnesty bill. And Rubio was ready for that and called her out on that too. It was great. It was really well done by Marco Rubio. So if one of the jobs that they're auditioning for here is to fight with the corporate media and liberals like Kristen Welker, so far, he's checking some boxes. All right, so now we move on. Oh, to Kristen Welker. She did this with Tim Scott. Remember when she said, will you accept the election results in 2024? Here we go.
Asylum rulings right at the border?
And Senator James Langford, of course, negotiated. But let me look forward. Will you accept the election results of 2024, no matter what happens, Senator?
No matter what happens? No, if it's an unfair election, I think it's going to be contested by either side.
Senator, no matter who wins.
I think you're asking the wrong person. The Democrats are the ones that have opposed every Republican victory since 2000. Every single one.
No Democrat has refused to concede. Hillary Clinton conceded. Senator, will you accept the election results?
Hillary Clinton said the election was stolen from her and that Trump was illegitimate. Kamala Harris agreed.
Senator,
we have Democrats now.
Senator, she conceded the election. And attended the inauguration.
She said that Trump was illegitimate. She said that the election had been stolen. Kamala Harris agreed. By the way, there are Democrats serving in Congress today who in 2004 voted not to certify the Ohio electors because they said those machines have been tampered with. And you have Democrats now saying they won't certify 2024 because Trump is an insurrectionist and ineligible to hold office. So you need to ask them. I think have you ever asked the Democrat this question on your show? I bet you've never asked the Democrat that question.
Senator, you voted to certify the 2020 election, and here is what you said on that day that you voted to certify.
Notice again, she's got the pre-planned video package. Here's what you said then about certifying this election, and she goes to the video package. Amazing how this works. This isn't an interview. This entire thing is a setup. They pre-planned the entire, okay, when you ask this, then he's going to say this, and if he says that, then go to this video. This is all produced. It's all planned. And it's not meant to inform the viewers. It's meant to trap the politician. Which, listen, hey, all's fair in love and war. You're going on Meet the Press. Know that this is going to happen. But the key question that Marco Rubio kept asking is, have you ever asked a Democrat this question? Ever asked a Democrat this question? And we know the answer. We know it's okay to deny election results if you're a Democrat. In fact, it's expected. All right, so let's watch how this plays out. But you notice how Rubio, I mean, I don't know this Marco. This isn't a new Marco Rubio. He's definitely taking a different attitude here. And I do think it's because he wants to be considered as Trump's running mate.
By the 2020 election.
Yeah. Democracy is held together by people's confidence in the election and their willingness to abide by its results.
So by your own definition, are Donald Trump's claims undermining Americans' confidence in democracy, given that he has not conceded the last election, and he just said in recent days twice that he won Minnesota, Senator?
I think what undermines people's confidence in the election is when you have places like Wisconsin with over 500 illegal drop box locations, when you have places like Georgia where liberal groups are paying people $10 per vote. No, but listen, what undermines elections is when NBC News and every major news outlet in America in 2020 censored the Biden laptop story, which turned out to be true, not Russian misinformation, unprecedented. only you couldn't even talk about it on social media. They would deplatform you. People look at all this. They look at what happened in Arizona, 200,000 ballots that had the signatures didn't match. People will lose confidence, and it opens the door to this.
I have to jump in here. Senator, you voted to certify the election. And
because at that stage in the process, you have no options.
Senator, you voted to certify the election. Nothing has been censored on this program. Hillary Clinton.
Did you guys cover the laptop for Joe Biden in 2020?
Absolutely, we covered the laptop.
It was bad. You couldn't.
They covered the laptop over a year later. She's lying. She's 100% lying. They covered the laptop a year later. And I got to say, Rubio, again, he's doing the steamroll effect. He's saying, well, this and this and this and this. She couldn't get a word in edgewise. And when she didn't respond to anything that he said. She just went back and said, you certified the election. So, you certified. So it's really good skills here. And Kristen Welker didn't know what to do with it. That's why she just keeps repeating the same thing over and over again. He's bringing the facts to the table. A little bit more here.
Even talk about it in social media.
Chris Krebs, the top election official,
you couldn't talk about it in social media. It'd be deplatformed. You couldn't even talk about it because they said it was Russian disinformation.
Senator Rubio,
voters in many cases didn't even hear about it because it was blacked out by the media.
We did cover the election, and just to note that Chris Krebs, who was a top Trump election official, called it the safest and most secure election in recent history. Senator Rubio, we are out of time.
Of course we are, but I'm telling you that if it's unfair, we are going to do the same thing Democrats do. We're going to use lawyers to go to court and point out the fact that states are not following their own election laws.
But the Democrats,
hopefully we'll have a fair election,
all of those
and it'll
cases,
be
Senator, all those cases were brought to court cases and lost, and there was no proof that there was any widespread fraud, as you know. But I appreciate.
I never used the word widespread fraud.
I'm sorry. All right, Senator Rubio, thank you very much. I appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah, that was great, too. Oh, it was always proven there was no widespread fraud. And Marco Rubio said, yeah, I never said there was widespread fraud. That's not what we said. What we said was, and what we'll continue to say, is that states didn't follow their own election laws, especially in Pennsylvania. They didn't. They just didn't follow their election laws. Now, a lot of those election laws have changed since then. But that is the bottom line. Listen, every Republican is going to be asked this question. Marco Rubio so far has given the answer, the best answer. But honestly, he could have been even more concise. Here's the answer. Will you accept the results of the 2024 election? And the answer is, as long as the Democrats don't cheat again. If Democrats don't cheat, we'll accept the results. But why would we accept results of an election if one side cheats? That doesn't make any sense. By the way, Marco Rubio earlier today tweeted out this video as a response. See, he didn't have his video package ready like the folks at Meet the Press did for that exchange, but then they put the video package out a little later. Watch this.
If Al Gore won that election, I think he won Hayward.
You know it, I know it, they know it. We won that election.
And the only way they could win the election was to stop the voting in Florida.
Troubling evidence of the fact that not every vote was being counted.
Legitimate concerns over the integrity of our elections.
The right to vote has been stolen from qualified voters.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
There is a cloud of illegitimacy around the election of Donald Trump.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it.
Without voter suppression, Stacey Abrams would be the governor of Georgia.
That's powerful. That's strong. It's very, very well done. And, well, Marco Rubio is sort of bringing it right now, if I may say. A little bit more on this appearance on Meet the Press. There's a lot here, but I do know that you enjoy seeing these clips because you don't watch these shows, but you should see this stuff. They had an exchange, an important one, over the other issue that Kristen Welker really wants to carry the Democrats' water for and do all of their dirty work for them. And that's, of course, abortion, because they really want this election to be about abortion. So have at it, Kristen. Do your puppet master's job. Oh, what do you say?
Would you support a federal abortion ban?
Well, I'm pro-life. And to me, this is not even a political issue. I understand it is for a lot of people, and I understand this is a divisive issue in our country, and not everybody shares my views on it. But I believe that human life is worthy of dignity and protection, and I support laws that protect our unborn human life. I always have. as I've done in the past. You know, when people talk about a federal abortion ban, what they're talking about is the 15-week ban, which Lindsey Graham sponsored and I have co-sponsored in the past. That law is less restrictive or identical to virtually every country in Europe except for 2. Now, the extremists here are the Democrats. Not once, but twice, they have voted in Congress to support a law that basically has no meaningful restrictions. They claim it does, but it has no meaningful restrictions. And I think if we are indeed in this republic, which is what we live in a divisive issue like this, where everybody's views have to be taken into account, it's very difficult to find, if there is such a thing, an arrangement at the federal level with people who basically will not vote for any meaningful restrictions on abortion.
Well, of course, the restrictions would be after 21 weeks. But let me ask it to you this way. Donald Trump
No, that's not accurate. I'm sorry, that's not what that bill did. No, I'm sorry, but that's not what that bill did. That bill, and it didn't say anything about doctors. It said practitioners. So it didn't have to be a doctor that makes this decision. It didn't say anything about a reasonable harm. It's just a good faith. And so basically, even if it's remote and unlikely, you could still say, and it's not even about, by the way, in the law that they had, it's not even about the life of the mother. It's about the health. So it could be a nurse practitioner or a nurse, or healthcare practitioner. Someone needs to define that. And it can be for virtually any reason. So I understand what they claim the bill did, but in practice, that bill had no meaningful restrictions. It was, in essence, a vote, not once, but twice, from Democrats to have abortion at any time for any reason.
Let me just note, though, that less than 1% of abortions take place after 21 weeks. Let me just ask you, though, this way.
Then everybody should be in favor of just ban. If they're so rare, then let's just ban them all after 21 weeks.
I want to jump in because you need to say, you see this pattern of what she's doing here, right? First of all, she's repeating talking points as if they're fact of the Democrats' political positions. And then immediately she just repeats it as if she's like, well, I just want to get the facts out because what you just heard was bullshit. And so I better give you the facts. And now we'll move on to my next question. And Rubio's not having it. I mean, I say, no, well, that's not true. I know what the bill is. I'm in the Senate. You're not, Mrs. Welker. You're just reading what Planned Parenthood told you to say. And then when he disputes it and says, no, actually, it would be a nurse practitioner and it can be for the mental health. If mother wakes up in a bad mood, she can kill the baby at 8 months and nothing's stopping it. So there really is no restriction. It's the Democrats who are the ones who extreme. Ask a Democrat if they'll put any restrictions on an abortion and see what they say. And her only response is, instead of actually trying to combat that because she knows she's been caught in a lie, then she says, well, only 1% of abortions. And by the way, if it's only 1, why is that okay? But think about that talking point for a minute. It's only 1% of abortions that are done in the 3rd trimester when the baby is developed enough to live outside the womb if necessary. It's only 1%. So some years recently, I don't know what the number was last year, but we've had upwards to 500,000. I think there was one year there was 650,000 abortions. But, you know, let's go with 500,000 from last year, since I don't have the number off the top of my head. That's 5,000 babies. Oh, it's only 1%. That's 5,000 babies. That's like about how many people watch Meet the Press. That's her audience. That's only 1%. And that's, and Marco Rubio has a great answer. If that's the case, then everyone should be able to agree on this. Every single talking point they have. And let me tell you something. From my perspective, every Republican running for office, but certainly a Republican running as Trump's running mate, they need to know how to answer the abortion question well, properly, truthfully, passionately. And with the kind of passion that this issue deserves, and thoughtfully. And that's exactly what Rubio's doing here.
They're fighting so hard on that.
Well, because usually if they happen, it's because there is a crisis with the health of the mother. Let me ask you, though, Donald Trump says
no, but if there's a crisis with the life of the mother, a real crisis, that every bill has that restriction in place. Every bill has that exception.
Senator, let me ask it this way. Donald Trump says, quote, he's not signing a national abortion ban. Do you disagree with him on that point?
Well, he won't get to sign one because there's no way we can pass it. I've never claimed we have 60 votes in the Senate and votes in the House and everything else that goes in between. I don't believe any time in it, but I don't See, I don't support those bills because I think they're actually about to pass. And I think what Trump has actually said is that what he wants to do is negotiate with a Democrat. I think he said it on this program, that he wants to negotiate with the Democrats on this, which I think, in a country where you're trying to save unborn human life, and I support laws that do so, even if they don't have everything I want him to have in there, that's his goal. And so, but that's a statement of fact. He will never get a chance to sign that law because right now we don't have the votes to pass it. That doesn't mean that's not what I believe. It just kind of the reality of the politics.
Well, but he's not talking about whether the votes are there. He has said point blank he's not signing a national abortion ban. Let me ask you, though.
Because he wants to negotiate with the Democrats on the issues. He
also said on this program that a 6-week abortion ban that was signed into law in Florida, in your state, is a, quote, terrible thing, a terrible mistake. Is he wrong on that point, Senator?
Well, again, I'm pro-life, so I support laws that save unborn human life. Other people have different opinions on what our law should be. That law that you're referring to was passed by elected legislators in the state of Florida. House members that have to go back to their voters every 2 years. It wasn't senators that have to go back every 4 years. And that's the way our republic works. So it's a representative democracy, and people have to go back to their voters and justify. I am of the belief that unborn human, I don't want to impose anything on anyone. I get that this is two competing rights here that are crashing into each other, but I err on the side of supporting unborn human life because of the dignity of all human life. That's my view. I want our laws to represent it. Other people have different views, but in our representative democracy, people who have to answer to voters in the state of Florida voted for that, and voters will now get to take that into account in this election and any future election.
Just to put a fine point on it, you are disagreeing with Donald Trump on his opposition to that 6-week ban. You support the 6-week ban?
But I think even within the pro-life movement, there's all kinds of disagreement about what the law should be.
But you
Some of it is practical on what we can pass.
You support the 6-week ban?
I support any life. I support any bill that protects unborn human life. But I don't consider other people in the pro-life movement who have a different view to be apostate. They just have a different view about the best ways to approach this issue. We are not like the Democrats, where unless you are in favor of their bills that basically say, let's just put in all this fancy language, but it's not meaningful in terms of any restrictions, you won't get Planned Parenthood, for example, who supports all these Democrats, to get their support and NARAL support. You have to be for abortion at any time. I don't care what they say. That's the practical impact of their laws. They are radicals on this.
Damn it, that was good. I mean, really, really good. Again, not just pointing out the ghoulish, despicable position that Democrats have and must have if they're a member in good standing with the party, but by responding in the way he did at the end there, he made it glaringly obvious that Kristen Welker would never, ever ask Democrats the same line of questioning here. Ever. And the reason is because you're not allowed to be a Democrat unless you all agree on the same thing, which at this point is in fact allowing the killing of a baby in the womb right up till the day of birth. And so it's pretty beautiful how you never have to get caught with hypocrisy or in any way have two Democrats that have differing positions and say, oh, so you think they're wrong about that? Just say it on the record. She had her pen out. So just to be clear, just to have a fine point on it, you support the law that Donald Trump doesn't support, right? Right? That's it. See, that moment never happens with Democrats because you're not allowed to be a Democrat unless you all agree on the same thing. Kill the baby, whatever reason, right up till birth. I mean, I guess the big difference is some of the Democrats, they're okay with the killing of the baby after birth.